Hey everybody, I want you to check out something. This regards the Oakland County Coliseum JPA Authority and how it handles recording of meetings. Look at this first of all. This is from the April agenda, and it reads, "You are invited to a Zoom webinar. Topic, Oakland County Coliseum Authority board meeting." It should say Joint Powers Authority, but nonetheless, it gives you a set of expectations regarding the Oakland County Coliseum Joint Powers Authority board meeting. And it says notice of agenda, remote it, and then it announces by law has to say it's allowing and has accommodations for remote attendance right here on April 18th. It gives you the passcode and everything else. This is all publicly available. So what it's telling you is this is a Zoom webinar. And also, the law says that, hey, as a Zoom webinar, it's a publicly recorded meeting. And it reads, this is an AI overview of the law. Yes, recordings of Zoom webinars used for Brown Act meetings, of which the JPA is, are typically subject to public inspection. The Brown Act requires public meetings to be accessible, and that includes recording and archiving them. Let's read that again. Yes, recordings of Zoom webinars used for Brown Act meetings are typically subject to public inspection. The Brown Act requires public meetings to be accessible, and this includes recording and archiving them. While Zoom hosts can control recording options, these recordings often become part of the public record and are subject to public inspection requests. Okay, why do I go through that? Because about a week ago now, I made a request to get a copy of the video recording of the April 18th meeting. We're not even into May. And Renee Savage, there's nothing against Ray, but this is what happened. Renee responded to my email after a 5-day delay, and that is because Renee is the lone staff for the Coliseum Joint Powers Authority, and she needs an assistant. She needs an intern. I've said this again and again and again, but I digress. She responded, said that she would reach out to the people who were recording the meeting and see if they could take care of that, or words to that effect. And so then she got back to me the next day and said that there was no recording. There was no recording of the meeting. Now, look, I responded testily saying that that's a lie. And here's why I say that. Because look, all right, this is why. It says you're invited to a Zoom webinar. And by law, I have the right to expect that this webinar is being recorded. That's what the literature reads. That's how it's interpreted here, and that's how it's laid out. If you go and look for detail beyond this listing, that's how it's laid out by the city of San Diego. Current council dockets and Brown Act compliance. And if you go here, it lays out, this is how San Diego handles it. This is how public organizations in California are supposed to handle their meetings under the open meeting law and with respect to the use of Zoom webinars, okay? This is very detailed by the city of San Diego, very detailed, the way it should be. All right. Now, this one, less so, but it doesn't mean the law doesn't apply. It does. It tells you it's going to be remote attendance, that you're invited to a Zoom webinar, and then it gets to all the other agenda items and adjournment, and then it provides the minutes. What's missing here is any acknowledgement that this is a Brown Act meeting, even though it is. all right, even though it is. That's not stated here. Erin Roseman is the secretary, and I believe the person who handles the video. She's also the finance director for the city of Oakland. All right, so I'm going through the minutes here in search of any language or standard language that would show that the JPA, and as you see 7 of 7, show that the JPA is saying that, hey, this is a meeting under the Brown Act. Just because it doesn't say so in the agenda doesn't mean it's not. It is. This features members of the Oakland City Council and the Alameda County Board of Supervisors. All right. And I brought this. I also brought this to the attention of some of the board members. I'm not going to say who. And well, I will say Nate Miley, who's our most listed here as you know, as our chair. Rebecca Kaplan is the vice chair. In this case, Nate was remote, so they had to do a remote setup, you know, a Zoom webinar, and so it was remote. That was also the case in March. It's normally the case that 1 or 2 of the board members can't actually physically be there, and so the Zoom webinar system is used. Now, I've always recorded the video, which is my right to do, but I would always note that the chime would come in and a person would occasionally announce this is being recorded, but it's being recorded by function. It's being presented for remote view. It's a remote meeting, and the law calls for the recording of these Zoom webinars because they're supposed to be able to be made available for public inspection. You can't just willy-nilly say, oh, you know, I don't feel like recording it, or I didn't maintain the file. And if I go back through my email exchange, I'm not going to show you the email exchange because I don't want to give away anyone's private email address, okay? But it started this way. This is on Friday, April 18th. This was actually the evening of the day of the JPA meeting. Me to Renee. This is Zinni, who I hope all is well with you. Got a copy you can send over? Because in the title I wrote, hi, do you have a video copy of today's JPA meeting? Got a copy you can send over. I had an audio issue. Thanks, Zinni. And so I waited and waited and waited. About 5 days, so 5 days later, 8 days, this is 8 days ago. It was Wednesday, April 23rd. So it started the 18th, and it was Wednesday, April 23rd. That's 5 days. Renee wrote back, good morning, Zinni. I'm waiting to receive the Zoom meeting video recording from the host. And she remarked, I believe she may be on vacation. I will keep you posted. Best, Renee Savage, OACCA Executive Assistant, sent from my phone. And I wrote back, hiya. Okay, thanks for the update, Zinni. That was the same day, April 23rd. And then I wrote back on the 26th, 3 days later. Hey, hi, still waiting for the video file. Renee wrote, hi, Zinni. Regrettably, the meeting was not recorded. Have a good Saturday. I wrote back, hi, Renee. I do have a version of the meeting and recall that you all said it was recorded. What the heck is going on? And I got no response. And I said, Renee, I have to report this. That's against the law. I know that's wrong. And it is wrong. It's very disappointing. It's very willy-nilly. It's very nonchalant. and its actions. It's not Renee's fault. I believe the host is Ms. Roseman. I say that because she's the person that controls the Zoom whenever I press the button to speak. She's the gatekeeper, if you will. So this is a big problem. And it needs to be straightened out. We need to have a tighter set of procedures for Zoom webinars. And the public should know that these are being recorded. And also, I want the one from the 18th. And if it wasn't recorded, I believe there should be a JPA agenda to discuss what happened and why. That's not right. People say, well, democracy is dead. Democracy isn't dead, it's alive and well. You have to make sure that people are following the laws that ensure that a democracy stays intact. The Brown Act is one of those laws. Subscribe to Zennia62 on YouTube, the Vlog Report with Zennia62, and bookmark zenniareport.com. Thanks.